Toyota Hiace highway review. Last year when I was researching these, I was looking for a video just like I'm trying to make now, all about how it handles a full-on American highway. I found a couple videos where someone drove on the highway and just got up to 60 or 65 and then claimed, yes, they can do highways, and that doesn't really give you the full story. First off, seating position. I myself am 6'3" and well over 200 pounds. And it's pretty tight in here, to be honest. I have my seat as far back as it will go, and I'm pretty close to the dash. And one thing that I do notice quite a lot is the armrest kind of tapers off on the back here, and that's where I want to put my arm. So it's not really a good place to rest your arm on the right. And on the left, they kind of did the same thing. This center console is pushed over to the passenger side for the handbrake, which means when you want to go put your arm somewhere, you've got to have it all over to the passenger side, which gets old. Speaking of things pushed over to the wrong side, the center console here is pushed over to the driver's side, which means you got less room for your legs. Now onto the headroom. You'd think with all this room in the back, all this room up front, you'd have plenty of headroom for the driver, but that is not the case. This is where the climate controls for the rear are, and they really get in the driver's way. As you can see, I'm now sitting completely upright, and if I try and recline, so with that there, you really have two options. You can either sit completely upright, or you can drop the seat all the way back, and then lay out, and then not really be able to grab the steering wheel. So if you are as vertically proportioned as myself, you might want to get one of these without this or a different vehicle. This is the other side of the head obstruction here. This is the climate control for the rear. It does the AC for the passengers who sit in much more luxury than the driver. This particular Hiace, being the Super Custom Limited, comes with pretty much all the bells and whistles, but you can get one with a higher roof or different models that come without this rear AC system. And with all of that being said, it is actually pretty comfortable. You got a good spot for your drinks there and there. Plenty of room to put your other non-drink related things. You got a glove box there, center console here, cubby here, cubby here, cubby here, cubby here, and another one of those over there. Onto the drivetrain. So this is the 1KZ TE engine, which means it's a 3-liter inline 4-cylinder turbo diesel. And it is longitudinally mounted. It has a transmission behind it and then a transfer case behind that, so it is full-time 4-wheel drive. And now let's try the highway. I'm gonna give the old 4-cylinder the beans now. Not going very fast, but we're accelerating. And something to note, the dash speedometer is off due to the bigger tires, so right up here, that's where the actual miles an hour is. We're going up a hill now, we're at 71 miles an hour and 2,500 RPM. And if you put it to the floor, it'll downshift into third, and that hits it at about 3,700 RPM. And I am getting a little bit of wind noise from this visor here on the window. I've thought about taking it off, but it looks so cool. We're at 77 miles an hour now, and it's pretty comfy. You can still have a conversation, you can still hear your music. It's no luxury coupe or a luxury sedan in the wind noise department, but it's not bad. And it has plenty of power to hold this speed. I'm probably at a quarter, maybe a third throttle. I'm on a slight incline now, getting a little bit into the throttle just to hold the speed, but it's not struggling at all. I'm behind a semi-truck now, and the wind is kind of throwing me around. This thing has the aerodynamics of a stick of butter. And to give her the beans at highway speed, going from 69 miles an hour, downshift into third, 72, 73, 75, 76 into fourth, 77, 78. It's not fast. I'm at about 85 miles an hour now. The wind noise is a lot more than 75, and it definitely isn't quite as happy here, and I'm at about 2,800 RPM, so its most comfortable cruising speed is about 75, and it does that just fine. You might be in the slow lane if you like to go through Montana and Wyoming and states like that where it's an 80 mile an hour speed limit, everyone's doing 90. This could probably do 90, but it's probably not going to be the most comfortable for it, and you probably wouldn't be getting optimal fuel economy. Probably my biggest surprise on this is the wipers. I thought for sure that they'd be flying around once you got over 70-80 miles an hour, that the wipers would kind of pick up like they do on all the Chevys, but highest I've ever gone in the rain in this was 85 miles an hour, and the wipers stayed planted every single swipe except for oncoming traffic. It would kind of pick up the passenger one, but the driver's side never had a problem. All right, getting back on the highway. Never mind. Once again, I'm gonna give it the beans, uphill. And we're still holding up traffic. Yeah, 65. Still 65. And around town, it's actually pretty good. It's got its fair share of rattles because it's 30 years old and all made of plastic. It does idle pretty loud, being that there's a diesel engine right there. And it does have a really good turning radius, or at least maybe it feels a little better than it actually is because you're sitting in front of the front tires, but I'm pretty impressed with how easy it is to park. So it does pretty good on the highway, but now on to wind noise. I used an app on my phone to measure the wind noise of 3 of my cars. Even with all of this junk on the roof at 75 miles an hour, I was still seeing about 71 decibels. For some comparison, my 1993 Toyota Hiace, which is also imported from Japan, it's just the JDM version of the Lexus LS400, that read about 70 decibels at 75 miles an hour. And then my Range Rover Sport reads about 68.3 decibels on the highway, again at 75 miles an hour. And these measurements are of course all with my smartphone, so they're not very accurate, but they give you a general idea of what you can expect as far as road noise goes. And all of that does come with pretty impressive off-road capability. Granted, it's no Jeep or Range Rover or anything like that, but it still gets down pretty good for a van with this much room inside. The things you'll notice that hang down are the transfer case, and then the front subframe. I have hit the front subframe on a rock. I have yet to hit the transfer case. It has a little skid plate there in case you do. You've also got the control arm back here, and then of course the axle. And I know you can lift them up a little bit and put some even bigger tires on it, but you'd be surprised at the places that this thing can take you. And while it may look really big, it really isn't. The only dimension that's really notable is the height. It's pretty tall, but it is very narrow, and it's actually not too long. And one more thing to note is that, as far as I know, none of the Hiaces in this generation come with cruise control. I'm sure you can retrofit something or use some aftermarket kit because it does have a throttle cable instead of an electronic throttle, so you could probably make something work. But other than that, it's pretty good.